There's some.
Hello and welcome to Bible Quiz Fellowship Game Day. I forgot that was the name of our show yesterday, but anyway, here we are, day two. Nate, say hi so they know who you are.
Hi,
There you go.
it's me over here.
Austin,
Hello.
and I'm Quincy, speaking remotely for I swear the last time in a while from Ohio. And Nate and Austin are there on the ground in Green Lake, Wisconsin after day one of the Bob Quiz Fellowship National Tournament 2025. So, guys, some things that I noticed at home that you didn't have to be there to notice is that Moxie had a great day, and some other teams that seem to do well. Third day Unshadowed, Riven surprisingly, Revelation surprisingly, CB squared, Dead BC. So those are some names that stood out. Witness won a couple quizzes that I didn't necessarily expect them to. That's the Youth Challenge team. The second team, so to speak, from Family Life, fully armed, looked pretty good. So those are some things that I noticed. What do you guys notice? What do you want to point out?
You first.
Okay, well, I would say that there's not going to be any undefeated teams this year in the round robin. Every team has lost a quiz. Um, I believe Revelation took a third, and Riven also took a third. And it's interesting that if you go to those quizzes and check them out, you'll maybe see what's going on there. And they did not only did they take a third, but they were in the negative. So it seems like when it comes to those top teams, is they go all or nothing. They want to win the quiz, or and they're gonna die trying essentially by getting going into the negative. So um, yeah, the quiz masters for those quizzes were probably not what they were looking for as far as getting points and getting a good read on what those quiz masters typically do. So I think a lot of times it can come down to, and it may not even be anything the quiz master does, but it could be just a mindset and just previous experience and just they it becomes mental to them in that they see this quizmaster like, oh no, we're not going to do well. Or the alternative could be, oh, this quizmaster we do really well with, and we're going to have a great quiz. And so a lot of it can depend on that and just their perspective and their feeling of what they're how they're coming into the quiz with. So I would say overall, having the right quizmaster in there with the right teams, I think can really make a difference. Quizmasters is a variable that um, can impact quiz. I know that quiz masters that are from a certain ministry and the teams that are in the quiz, if they're from the same ministry, they tend to know them better, and so they do well. And if they haven't seen the quiz master very much during the year, then they would sometimes struggle with that.
Yeah, that's part of the test of skill that we're having here, though, is the adaptation to those situations because everybody has to go through those situations. That's not really an option. You can't pick your quiz masters.
Not
Um,
yet. We'll see.
Drafting for every round robin quiz. No, let's not go there. One of the things I noticed, I think you've mentioned a lot of teams already. I look at some of the standings that we have now, and I think there's a pretty steep drop off after the top 12 teams. And the main thing I that's notable about that is 12 is a really big number. And it's almost like, yeah, you could group it into smaller sections there and say maybe, Moxie third day on Shadowed, Riven, Rev. Those are the guys who all put up really high scores, high average points per quiz. So maybe the top five. But really, all of those 12 teams had turns beating each other when they did see each other Thursday. And there's going to be more opportunities for them to see each other on Friday tomorrow. So, strength of schedule definitely comes into play with some of these records. But all the way down to 12, those teams all had six firsts or seven firsts. And then suddenly we dropped to the next teams after that with four and higher bracket points for scoring a little bit more.
Mhm.
So some teams that you didn't mention yet, fully armed, um, it looks like they're maybe seated in the 11th. Messengers is up there, Zenith. I kind of talked them up before. They're in ninth, I think, right now. Apocalypse is up there, CB squared. And maybe our surprise team of the tournament so far is Dead BC in sixth place, being seated right now. That's just based off of total bracket points. So awesome job to all of those guys. But strength of schedule, there's another round robin day coming up, and some of those other teams below 12 are ready to crack it.
You'll have to check the tape on Quincy mentioning fully armed because I believe he did. Um, anyway, the other thing I was gonna say, hey guys, I think that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Moxie's going to be the number one ranked team after the round robin. Because I looked at their schedule for tomorrow and it's not bad. Now, that might, you never know what can happen. You can have an off day, but I do think that Moxie's going to find their way to the top seed in the tournament. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, we sort of buried the lead there a little bit. Moxie, according to our preliminary results, they're the number one seed right now going into the second day. So, and they're at a 7-2-0 record. And it's interesting because they were 7-2, but at the meantime, Riven was what 8-0-1. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that third place can really make a difference in that case. The difference between um, being in the number one spot versus being in number four. So, that third place was pretty brutal for Riven to do and highly unexpected. Even though scoring wise, you look at the total points scored. Riven's the only team over 4,000, and that's by a lot. They're like a
No,
thousand
Moxie.
points.
no,
Or
that's
Moxie.
Moxie.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, Moxie's got over like 4,000 points here, and Riven because of that one quiz that they had where they got that third and they got -50, they were about 1,000 points behind in that regard, and that played a big role. And
Yeah,
so,
Yeah.
Moxie putting up a lot of points, a lot of points.
Average
Like
points
very
per
even if
quiz is approximately 100 points higher than any other team
even if I didn't
per
have an
quiz.
awesome document calculating that, I could have told you just from kind of monitoring stuff that Moxie is just absolutely putting up lots of numbers, and that's kind of what you need to do to get yourself,
Mhm.
get first as much as you can, but also put up a lot of points, and that's how you end up in that top spot. So that might be fun. I don't know if that's ever happened, but you guys are getting interrupted. Um, so third day had a good day also. We talked about them a little bit. And I was gonna say too that obviously I'm just a guy who's been on my couch for a while for national tournaments. One thing that I'd love to see is for third day on Saturday to maybe try to see if they can control the errors a little bit because Saturday they tend to run out at the beginning. They'll be seated pretty high and they just run into error trouble very quickly. And I wish I could because I'd love to see. I think a lot of us would. We'd love to see Third Day make the stage and kind of crash that party and bring a new ministry into the mix. And one of the things I just love to see is those great quizzers they have because they have so much depth, so many quizzers that know so much stuff. Just love to see them like go into Saturday and say, hey, let's kind of try to save some of our firepower for the second half because it seems a lot of times they get behind the eight ball. So I want to throw that out there as a something that I'm kind of monitoring to see if they can manage to do because when you have a great deep team, when you have guys that know a lot of stuff, you get into Saturday and you're like, man, we're gonna hang with these teams, we're gonna get out there, and it's very easy to get caught up in winning jumps, and next thing you know, you are way behind the eight ball, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's kind of one observation I wanted to throw out there.
Well, going off of that observation, not just for that team, but you're talking about the difference between round robin and Saturday being that sort of mentality that the top teams are going to have on Saturday. And some of these teams in the top 20 right now they all look like teams that if they get into the right quiz with not just, hey, it's a one-on-one against Moxie or Riven or Rev or any of these top 10 teams we're talking about, now there's two competitive teams in there. Any of these top 20 teams look like people, have quizzers on them with a lot of material memorized, know it really well, competitive jumps, who could say, we're going to be the ones who are patient. Let these other teams get out ahead in errors. and then come back. And so whatever story is written in the rest of the round robin, I think it's going to be an exciting Saturday if there are teams who feel like they're just seated in a good enough position that they can start to tap into some of those higher sites pretty quick.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's some great observations. I think, and what I said too, I certainly don't want to sound like I'm singling one team out. I know it's probably because I have the insight there because I've tried to follow Third Day so closely on Saturdays and because they're doing so well and they're in those top spots. But another team that we talked about a little bit is Witness, and I think the same thing could be true for them because when you have a team, maybe you don't have everybody knows the material, so you don't have quite as much depth of knowledge, but you have a lot of very talented quizzers who know a lot of stuff. It's just making sure that you put your quizzers in the best position possible to succeed. And if you get caught up in the jumping game at the beginning of the quiz and don't like let the, rhythm of the quiz come to you, you can find yourself in a pretty difficult spot. And I just love to see some of those teams set themselves up for success.
The Arthur theme song just popped into my head now. The rhythm of the beat, the rhythm of the street.
Yeah. Quiz rhythms is so much. I know you guys, do coaching and I've been there a lot more. I think quiz rhythm is just something so important and hard to get when you're not facing the great teams over and over and over all season. You kind of learn the rhythm of it and you begin to expect, like I always talk, I guess I'm going too much into coaching philosophy tonight, but I always talk to my quizzers about you have to feel that when teams are getting caught on no words, when they're not getting the reads that they want, you have to feel that you're going to get a chance to get that read or get that word because it's
Yeah.
coming. Everybody has to naturally slow down just a little bit. You have to feel you've gotten a bunch of long references. You have to gamble. A short reference mathematically should be coming up. All those rhythm things that quizzers just naturally learn and becomes part of their game when you're facing the top teams all the time. Teams like teams from Youth Challenge and Family Life and Bronze Wall and some of these smaller ministries, they don't get to experience that all season long, so they have to pick it up pretty quickly, if that
One
makes
of the things that has been talked about in recent years a little bit is there's a few, not a few less questions per verse, but a few less questions in the set these more recent years. And I think some coaches are starting to gamble on that a little more and say, statistically, we think that if you actually win a good number of jumps on no words, there's an acceptable number of jumps that it can pay off because the chances are greater now than they have been in the past that you actually get points. I don't know if we're there yet. If I was coaching right now, I would still say if my philosophy is the other teams beating themselves, let them go. But I guess some of these top teams got to be having some success with it because they're winning a lot of jumps on no words still, and they're scoring all these points. So yeah, keep up on Saturday, guys. It's going to be pretty brutal, I think.
I'd be interested to see too if we start to see a little bit of a pendulum swing back the other direction because as part of the question committee, which Austin's on as well, we have made a concerted effort to add in some questions we didn't ask before. Like basically any part of a prepositional phrase we're now asking, where that didn't always used to be the case. Um, so while we've limited the set because we now, try to make sure we're not asking questions that basically have the same answer multiple times, and we're including alternates where they're supposed to be, and we eliminated relative pronouns. I think we've started to maybe balance it out a little bit by asking extra smaller phrase questions than we did. So it'll be
Mhm.
interesting, something to monitor. And now we're getting probably too far in the weeds. So let's talk about tomorrow. Are there any quizzes that you guys want to highlight from tomorrow? Um, I just had it pulled up, so I'll have to pull it up here again because I went back to Friday to check on something. But I said that Moxie has kind of a lighter schedule, at least on paper, so that's something to monitor. Any quizzes that you guys wanted to point out?
Well, I will say here in the afternoon on Friday, it's the 2:30 quiz at Site 6. We've got three Minnesota, Wisconsin TFC teams. I know Austin and I are a little partial to those teams sometimes, but we got Unshadowed, Apocalypse, and Dead BC. So that's essentially the 2, 3, 4 matchup from our ministry as far as their skill goes. I mean, you could see the standings, or at least the preliminary standings, how they're very tightly placed even among all the other teams here at Nationals. So I think that'll be a good bracket day type of a quiz just to give them a good litmus test or barometer of where they're at when they're facing each other. I mean, sure, they get a lot of these, in our regular practices that we've had leading up to nationals, but this one counts for nationals and for points and placement to going into Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And of course, as always, be interesting to see who the quiz master is going to be for that quiz and how that may or may not impact it. But I'm looking forward to see how that one goes. And you get these inner ministry rivalries going on, and maybe they have like some bragging rights following that quiz to see, okay, we beat you guys, and so we have that little bit of a swagger going into Saturday and having that confidence. We'll see if that happens.
I
Um,
just
yeah,
before you go, before I forget, 145 right before that in site 13. I'm interested to follow Redemption, Third Day, and Apocalypse. Apocalypse, who you just mentioned, but wanted to mention that Redemption put up some good scores yesterday, as I mean today as we're talking, but Thursday as well. And they're always kind of a feisty team there in the middle that can move their way up. And so I think that'll be a good test for Third Day, quizzing two good teams together in Site 13. I think will be a good test for them.
yeah. Um, I mean, when we're highlighting these quizzes, a lot of time we're gonna find the three-team quizzes, what we feel like are three even teams. There's a couple of maybe I'm looking at two teams in particular that I want to see fight each other. But as they're fighting, is that third team going to be there ready, right? So in Friday afternoon 1:45 slot, we've got Site 3, Messengers Kingdom and the Disciples. And I want to see Messengers and Kingdom go up against each other because we've been talking about these teams in the 10 to 15 range. And is there a drop off? Who's going to crack? I guess I've been talking about that. Who's going to crack that top 10 there? And I think Kingdom has a lot of potential this year. Messengers is maybe around the 10th place bracket points right now. And man, they're dangerous. They push the pace of a quiz, and it seems like it's going to go really well for them, or it's really not. Um, and based on some of that jumping speed, and you're talking about errors and things like that with some of these other teams, they have that um, pitfall, but all the potential in the world too. So that's one I want to see those two teams and see what Disciples can do with that as well. And then end of the day, um, in Site 7, Supernova, Rooted, and Beloved Brothers. Supernova and Rooted are both teams that impressed me today for who they were quizzing. It didn't seem to matter who they were quizzing. They were winning jumps on the half word and the word, and they know their stuff. They have multiple good quizzers. They can get to bonuses, and they all have quizzers in the upper averages right now as of one day, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that you highlighted that one. There's a lot of those teams in that range: Rooted, Shipwreck, Vagabond, Voice, Warriors, Astonish, Resurrection, Clay, um, Known, Herd of Pigs. Yeah, Herd of Pigs. Go Herd of Pigs. Driven, Conflagration, Void, and Supernova. There's a lot of teams there that I can see doing a lot of jumping up and down between 30 and 20. And I think if I was one of those teams right now, it's 46 teams there. If you crack the top 23, you should feel really, really good about your season, I think. And then if you get your way into the 20s, then it's one of those seasons you can talk about for decades to come, in my opinion, because of how difficult these tournaments are. So yeah, that's a lot of fun for them, and I'll look forward to watching those quizzes. So all right, well, we probably droned on enough for today. We'll have a chance to talk a little bit about after tomorrow's quizzing Hope you guys can get a chance to get some good rest and everybody quiz well tomorrow.